Hi there, Bergman Lights here. So in my series on how to install a permanent lighting system, I installed some of these YPS puck lights that are in these metal tracks. I built a WLED controller, and the next step here is to show you how to configure this WLED controller. During the off season, I will be using the native program WLED. And during my animated Christmas show, I will be using xLights to control this controller. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the setup of the controller and how to configure it with xLights. So with that, let's get going. All right, so when you first plug in your WLED controller, it'll probably turn on some lights if there's some lights in it, but you won't have access to it. And so you need to log into its wireless access point. You can bring up any device, your phone, your tablet, your computer, and you open up the Wi-Fi settings and connect the WLED-AP. This is the default setting, so I'm going to click onto that and log into it. There we go, it's logged in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my browser. All right. And you may need to type the IP address. 4.3.2.1 is the default. And now I'm in it. So you'll notice a few things. I have it in the PC mode. If you're on your phone, it will look like this. And down below you have effects, segments, presets in the top. You have configuration, info, peak, sync, timer, and the power button. All right, so if I click the power button, you see that the lights turned off. I'll turn them back on. First thing we need to do is get it logged into get your Wi-Fi settings set up here. Okay, so let's get back to that. I want to go to Wi-Fi setup, and I'm going to scan for my network. Just going to look for my local network. If you know what it is, you can type it in. There it is, David B. Now I'm going to enter its password. I hit that wrong password. All right, and so now I'm going to do, you can leave this as a DHCP where it actually goes and gets you an IP address, or you can set it as static. I'm going to go do a static address. You need to know what your router is doing to do this, but you don't need to do it for sure. Get rid of those zeros. I need to do that right here too. Right, and you need to give it a gateway. If you don't do this, it won't work. And typically, your gateway, I keep doing that. Tab, there we go, 168. That's backspace 68. Tab, and typically it's a .1. You may need to look at your own router's configuration. All right, and there we go. There's that. And so we're going to save and connect. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is type in the new IP address. There's 68.30. There it is right there. I'm in. All right, so let's go to the PC mode and it'll show you a few things there. You see more things at once. Here's the color wheel, the power button. So one of the things you will notice here is you get all these segments. All right, so I want to go into my configuration and change that. We're going to go into our WLED preferences. All right, so one thing you will notice here is I have all 8 of my outputs, and I really only have 4. All right. And I have different numbers of lights. So, and also I have, first thing you'll see is GRB. Well, I have RGB lights. Let's start at the top. I'm going to go RGB. is the color order. Length I have in that is 100 lights. All right, and then I had the WS28 pixels. I got 100 on this port. All right, and I have 10 on this port, and the color order is RGB. And now we're going to go to this one here, and I have 10 on this one, and the color order is RGB. All right, and let's go down here. I don't have all these output ports. I haven't connected in the receiver, so I'm going to get rid of some of these. I'm going to get rid of these outputs I don't have. You can see they're dropping off. I think now I'm down to 5. Yep, I'll get rid of this one, then I will stop. All right, now I'm going to go to the bottom too. Not quite the bottom. Apply presets. I'm going to change this to 0. That way I only get one segment. All right, so now let's go to the bottom here, and I'm going to save my configuration. Let's go back, and you'll see I have all these segments here, and that'll just mess with you. You can look online on YouTube, a bunch of YouTube videos on how these work, but I want to start with 0 to begin with. All right, so I'm going to reboot my controller. I click on the info button, and I reboot WLED. I'm going to confirm that. It will come back up in a minute. You'll notice now that all my color lights are the same color. And now I can change it. I'm going to change it to blue. There went to blue. To green. Or let's click the Android effect. And we can do the default color gradient there. Or why don't we do April night, see what that looks like. And we can, there's actually this nice little button peak that kind of shows you what it's doing. And I can speed this up here. And you'll see it start changing more often. So you got this little dial down here at the bottom for speed, effect speed. Let's get it to max. All right, so there's lots of things. It's really get a really nice bunch of effects you can do with WLED. Alrighty, so I'm going to so now you're pretty much set up to operate it. Now I'm going to actually use 2 different controllers, and I have another one side by side, and it's 192.168.68.140. It's the IP address I gave it. And all right, so now I have that one here. Oh, one other thing I want to get to. Let's go back to this controller. I want to configure. I want to go to sync interfaces. If you have more than one WLED controller, or more than you're going to use for the outlines on your house using these puck lights, is you may want to set up a separate group. For me, I'm going to set up a group 2. All right, I'm going to save that here because I actually have another controller I use to control lights in my garden. Actually, it's the garden behind my pond. And let's go to this configuration here and sync interfaces. You see I already have this one as 2. So that's, we're back there. Let's go to this one. And let's double check my sync interface has stayed. Save it. Perfect. Back. So now I'm going to push sync. I'm going to power off and power on. Now you'll see all of the lights on both controllers and the screen are on. So we can go with solid color. This is the easiest way to demonstrate it. They're all green, all red, all blue, purple, right in the center for white. That's quite bright there. I can bring down the brightness here. Maybe a little too. There we go. That's probably about right. But you can see on the different colors, it still looks quite nicely. You get a bunch of these on your house, and the lower intensity is going to work just fine. So that's a quick tutorial on setting up WLED. You can also directly wire it. Oh, excuse me. Directly wire it, which is what I do to control my show network. So in summary, first place you go, Wi-Fi setup, set up your network. Next you do is you go to your LED preferences and you set the amount of lights you have connected to it, and make sure you go down here to apply presets at boot and make that sure that number is 0. If it's 1, it's going to give you 8. And it's going to evenly distribute the lights you have set over those 8 segments. So it doesn't necessarily line up with your outputs. All right. Okay, so there is a quick rundown on how to configure WLED for controlling these lights. Next, I'll go through xLights configuration, and you'll be able to see how that controls everything. All right, I'm going to go back here, and I am going to turn off the lights. All right, so I wanted to go through and walk you through how I change the configuration for interfacing with xLights, and I'm going to be able to leave this year around. All right, so if I go to configuration, Wi-Fi setup, what I did is I changed, I left my SSID the same, changed my network, I left my network password the same, but I changed all the static IP addresses. I changed that to a DHCP and put zeros across the board. All right, so that with this board having the Ethernet and the Wi-Fi, what I've done is I made sure it hands out the IP address. Now for xLights, I need to know the IP address to be able to upload a controller configuration to it, and for it to, when FPP sends out the sequence data, it needs to know where to go. All right, and so when I went, in order to get a constant IP address, I went to my router, all right, and I went to the advanced settings into LAN setup, and this is for a Netgear. If you have a different router, you'll have to look at your router's instruction how to reserve an IP address. And what I did is I got the MAC address from the controller, all right, and I gave it its static IP address. So whenever this router sees this MAC address, it's going to give us this 2.130 address, and the same thing with the 2.140 address. So this locks me in, and I'm able to put that into xLights. So if I go back here, you will see right now I have a chase pattern running. Okay, running a light blue and a red color. You'll see that on the screen now. See the colors going. They are synchronized. I have the sync button pushed. I'm going to power it off. Power it back on. All right. There it looks nice there. Now let's go to xLights. All right, and let's go to the controller configuration. You will see I have the vendor WLED, the model WLED, and the variant is an ESP32. I've been told by Brandon Rasmussen that his controllers will soon be listed in xLights directly, so that'll make it a little bit easier to use. You will see I have this one here with a .130 Ethernet address. Okay, and then I have the next one with a .140. I can upload the output to the controller. There it did on that one. Do this next one, upload the output. All right, and now if I go back to WLED, I'll need a power cycle it to get it to get them to work together again. See, it went to the default. So if I go to, let's go to chase again. There we go. You can see now it's running in the synchronized mode, off, on. If we go into configuration, LED preferences, we can upload the outputs and it will load The color order is preset by me, but it will also, we got a new one added. It'll give it the GPIO address, which is a pin number, which is used to control a particular string of lights. If you lose that, you can go to the website and you get those pin numbers. But here shortly, Brandon will have the controller's data uploaded into it, so that won't be so you shouldn't have to go look that up at that point. All right, so now let's go to xLights back again. So we have our controller figured out, set up. I have my layout. I just got a bunch of single lines. 6 of them are groups of 100. It may be hard to see the groups of 10 there. They're spread out pretty well, but there they are. Okay, now I'm going to go to my sequence. I already have a sequence set up. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to output the lights. And there you see, right there we got my chase pattern I set up on the single line in xLights directly. So it just takes over with the wired connection. If you try and access WLED from your home network, the Ethernet's taken over. It won't allow you to go do that. I'm going to show you here too something here. Let's go refresh 130 on this network, and here this message comes up in the PC. I'm not sure it does it on the WLED app, but you'll see it's telling you it's receiving 131 data. You can override it, but I don't recommend that when you'll be running your show. So there you go. That's how you configure xLights for xLights, and both controllers are giving the same information. This is how you can configure this WLED controller to use during your show, and then it's off when you're not running your show. So as I was doing the assembly of this video, I realized I didn't really show you how to configure xLights to what the outputs for each of the strings of lights that you have everything connected to, so I thought I'd go do that. I'm going to go to the layout tab. As I showed you earlier, we have each of the strings of lights, 8 of them for 8 outputs for the 2 different controllers. I have, I'll walk through this for the single line number 1. I have 100 lights connected to it. The starting location is the green square, and on the left side there's the green square right here, and the right there's the blue. So if you're actually starting the first light from the directly connected output of the controller, it's on the right side, you would change that to the blue square. You select your controller. All of the controllers are right here that are in your controller tab, and this one is connected to the number WLED 130, and now you have your output ports. This is connected to port number 1. Now I can change this to any number that I want. Let's just change this to 7. Change that to 7. Click Save. I actually don't have 7 ports on the controller right now, but it is capable of it if I hooked up a differential receiver. I'm going to go to the controller's output tab. Now you do have there's another way to do this right here from this tab from your controller. Once you identify the number of lights for each of your props, and you can click this visualize button. You will see here the single line 2, 3, and 4 on ports 2, 3, and 4. Single line number 1 is on port 7 because I moved it there. Now I can take this, I can actually drag it and put it on port number 1. And now it's configured there. These particular strings are hooked up to the other controller. I could drag, so let's say single line number 8, and I'll put it on port 8. And if I close this out, I click Save because I made changes, and I go to my Layout tab. You will see that single line number 8 is now on controller 130. It previously was in controller 140, and it is configured for port number 8. And single line number 1 is configured now for port number 1. So when you're done with your layout and everything's all set, and you've got your sequence all arranged, you can upload your output right here from this button for each of the controllers. You will have to click on each one individually to upload to each one of your controllers. You'll do upload output for number 130, and then you would upload output for number 140 for as many as controllers as you have. And then once you have your sequences done, you can run that from xSchedule, off of a computer. You can run it from File Compile Player. There's various methods, and there's lots of videos out there for you to use to tell you how to go do that arrangement. So this concludes this video, and I hope this helps somebody out there. You guys have a wonderful day.